The rivalry between America and Russia did not begin as a simple contest for power. It grew out of two different ideas about how the world should work and how people should live. After the Second World War, both countries emerged from the conflict with enormous influence, and each believed its own political and economic system was the right path for humanity. This difference in belief shaped almost every major event for decades. It turned allies into competitors, created deep suspicion on both sides, and set off a global struggle to define which country would lead world affairs. In the years immediately after the war, both nations saw a world in ruins and understood that new leadership was required. The United States had come out stronger economically, with industries running at full capacity and a belief in free markets. Russia, which was then the Soviet Union, had suffered catastrophic losses but had also expanded its military reach and gained territory in Eastern Europe. These early conditions created a foundation for a long contest in which each side tried to extend its influence as far as possible. Neither wanted direct war, but both wanted dominance, and that tension shaped everything that followed. At the heart of the competition was ideology. The United States saw itself as the defender of democracy and individual freedoms, while the Soviet Union claimed to represent equality and collective power through communism. Each believed the other's system was dangerous. American leaders thought the Soviet model suppressed personal rights and threatened economic freedom. Soviet leaders believed the American system was built on exploitation and would eventually collapse under inequality. This ideological divide was not just theory. It guided military alliances, foreign policy decisions, investment strategies, and even cultural messaging. Both sides used propaganda to convince the world and their own people that their system was the better path to stability and progress. The tension soon moved beyond ideas and became a competition for global allies. Countries recovering from the war or emerging from colonial rule became battlegrounds for influence. The United States pushed aid packages, investments, and military partnerships to keep countries aligned with the Western model. Russia responded by offering ideological support, military training, and political backing for governments or movements that aligned with communism. Every region mattered. Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America were all pulled into this contest. Local conflicts that might have stayed regional instead became part of the larger rivalry, where each side tried to prevent the other from gaining even small advantages. Military power became one of the most important factors in establishing dominance. Both nations built huge nuclear arsenals and developed advanced missile systems capable of striking across continents. The idea of mutually assured destruction shaped their strategies. The competition between America and Russia became more complicated after the Soviet Union collapsed. For a short time, it seemed as though the rivalry might end, and many believed Russia would move toward a more open political and economic system. Instead, the transition created chaos. The Russian economy shrank, industries fell apart, corruption spread, and living standards declined. In this weakened state, Russia watched America expand its global influence even faster. The United States had a strong economy, unmatched military capacity, and a network of alliances through Europe and Asia that helped shape decisions across the world. Russia felt sidelined, and this resentment slowly fueled a renewed drive for influence. The United States believed it had a responsibility to guide the world toward open markets and democratic systems. To American policymakers, the end of the Cold War was proof that their model worked. Institutions like NATO and the European Union expanded, bringing former Soviet-aligned countries closer to the West. This expansion created hope for stability in Europe, but in Russia it sparked a belief that America was pushing its influence too close to Russian borders. Russian leaders, especially those who saw the fall of the Soviet Union as a national humiliation, viewed NATO expansion as a threat rather than a natural evolution of European policy. This difference in interpretation set the tone for future conflicts. America saw itself as maintaining order and supporting democratic transitions. Russia saw America as taking advantage of its moment of weakness and shaping the global balance in a way that restricted Russia's ability to act as a major power. This clash of views became central to the rivalry that grew through the late 1990s and early 2000s. Russian leaders argued that security required buffer regions and influence over neighboring countries. American leaders argued that nations should be free to choose their alliances. These positions could not easily be reconciled. Energy resources played a large role in this new phase of competition. Russia had huge reserves of oil and natural gas, which became key tools for influence. Many European countries relied heavily on Russian energy, creating leverage that Russia could use in negotiations or political disputes. The United States, on the other hand, used its technological advances in energy extraction to reduce dependence on foreign sources and help allies diversify their supplies. This competition over energy markets had major consequences. Control over pipelines, export routes, and strategic partnerships often became more important than military strength in shaping influence. As technology accelerated, the rivalry shifted into new domains. Cyber operations, digital platforms, and information control became central to how each nation pursued dominance. Russia invested heavily in cyber capabilities, using them for intelligence gathering, political disruption, and strategic. The modern phase of the rivalry between America and Russia is shaped by a world that is more connected, more competitive, and more unpredictable than in the past. Technology, global markets, new alliances, and rising powers have changed the landscape, but the motivations driving both nations remain familiar. America continues to focus on maintaining a global order that aligns with its interests and values. Russia continues to push back against what it sees as American overreach and tries to assert its role as a major power with its own sphere of influence. These opposing goals create tension across multiple regions and sectors. Even as both nations face internal challenges, their rivalry persists because each believes its security depends on limiting the other's ability to shape global decisions. For America, global leadership is tied to economic stability, open trade, and strong alliances. The country relies on cooperation with Europe, Asia, and the Middle East to maintain influence. Russia, meanwhile, sees security through control of its borders, influence in neighboring states, and a balance of power that prevents any single nation, especially the United States, from dominating international affairs. These strategic visions collide whenever global issues arise. In recent years, conflicts in Eastern Europe became the clearest example of this collision. Russia's actions in regions it considers essential to its national security were viewed by America and its allies as violations of international norms. This disagreement intensified the rivalry and brought back elements of the older Cold War atmosphere. Sanctions, military support for partners, and competing diplomatic efforts became tools in a struggle that neither nation wanted to escalate into direct confrontation but neither wanted to abandon. The conflict demonstrated how deeply each side cares about its strategic priorities, even when the costs are high. The energy landscape remains central to the rivalry. Russia continues to use oil, gas, and resource partnerships as tools to maintain influence and earn revenue. Europe's dependence on Russian energy has been one of Russia's strongest sources of leverage. America, through technological innovation and new production capabilities, works to reduce that dependency by promoting energy alternatives and partnering with countries looking for diversified sources. This competition affects global markets, environmental policy, and diplomatic relations in ways that echo far beyond the regions directly involved. The digital battlefield is another place where the struggle continues. Information campaigns, cyber attacks, surveillance technologies, and digital propaganda have become normal parts of the geopolitical playbook. Russia uses targeted messaging, online networks, and cyber tools to influence political climates and weaken opponents. America counters with its own cyber capabilities, regulatory efforts, tech partnerships, and intelligence program.